Welcome to sports, everybody. Forrest Tucker with you. In the studio today over Zoom is Eric Wood. He's joining me. A special interview right now. We talk about the ISCO Championship coming up. He's on the board of that tournament in Louisville. You may know him, may have heard of him. He's from up in Cincinnati, but sadly, he has decided to spend his retirement days in Louisville. He is Louisville Cardinal. We're going to have to forgive him for that, but it's great to have you on today, Eric. We appreciate you taking some time. Played for the Bills for several seasons, made the Pro Bowl, and it's great to talk to you. We're going to talk golf, football, everything else.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Forrest. And for the UK fans that are watching, don't be too upset. There's many pictures of me growing up in UK basketball gear. My little brother, who is disabled, we had a live-in nurse at the house, and she was a giant UK sports fan. So keep that maybe between us, but there's some pictures out there for sure.
Awesome, awesome. I like to hear. I mean, look, it's all in the family. You can't touch blue when you live around the tri-state area for sure. It's always around there somewhere. So, again, we're happy to hear that, and we'll keep the secret as best we can. So, I tell you what, this is coming up, this championship, in just a couple of weeks. It's the countdown's just getting so much more close to zeros on the clock. Any updates that people need to know just right off the bat, Eric?
No, we're excited. The corporate ticket sales are through the roof. Ticket sales are doing extremely well. I've attended the tournament when it was the Barbasol over in Lexington. I attended it last year as the ISCO Championship, and there was always great support there. We're looking to turn it up maybe a notch with some added kind of support for the tournament. So maybe people that have attended in the past, great event, super family friendly. I brought my kids last year. We had an absolute great time over in Lexington. This year, you're going to be able to expect the same things, maybe just turned up a notch. We're kind of theming it around, okay, let's make this Kentucky Derby in July.
Been out to the course, and I agree, it definitely is going to hold the capacity of an elevated event from what it was here in Lexington. I have to ask you, a lot of pro athletes, they like to play golf. And everyone's story getting into it is different, I find. What's yours and your connection with the game?
So I grew up playing some. I didn't play at all in high school and college. Didn't have the time or, frankly, the money to play golf at that point. And then when I got into the NFL, a lot of the guys on the team were playing in the offseason. So I said, okay, I'm going to give this another go, and really fell in love with it. And I think a lot of us, you're naturally competitive if you've gotten to a high enough level in pro sports. Golf is something that you can continue to compete at when you're done. I can't go back out on a football field anymore. I'm technically medically disqualified anyways because of a neck injury, but I can go out and compete on the golf course, and I can spend time with buddies. The connections that I've made, the friends that I've made through the game of golf have been tremendous. And so it's an honor being able to be the chairman of this ISCO Championship and be able to try to create an awesome experience in Kentucky in the summer.
I love that. I think that's certainly so true. I wonder, besides competitiveness, what skill from football translates to your golf game?
That's a great question. I would say maybe not a skill, but an attribute would be power. I can still hit it pretty far and all that. Now, it's not the same movements. It's not, maybe using the same muscles, but some of the natural power that I was born with translates to the golf course.
I want to go back to the competitiveness of golf. A lot of pro athletes who I speak to say that when they leave the team environment, obviously golf's a different sport, it's just you out there, they are itching for something that's going to fulfill what they had, and replacing that is a very arduous task. How do you feel like golf has had the meaning for you with either that or something else that helps you kind of just scratch that itch post-playing days?
Yeah, that was really well said for us. And a lot of times we'll say, you miss the locker room the most. You miss the guys in the team the most. And look, you're likely not going to be able to find that type of camaraderie again where you're spending that much time with the same group of guys over and over and over. But when it comes to the game of golf, you get a regular group of golf buddies or guys that you travel with, you become close with them, you bond over the game. And look, the game of golf's hard. And so you're going to have your struggles with it, busting each other's chops over the game of golf. It's a ton of fun.
Nice, nice. Anyone you've ever come across in the league who's fallen in love with golf, but maybe has done a little too much during playing and they're just obsessed with it, you could see maybe this guy chose the wrong line of work?
No, not to that extent, but I will say the Bills fan base gives Josh Allen a lot of crap about how much golf he plays. Now, a lot of Josh's golf is forward facing with the media, where he's on Grant Horvat's channel, he's on Bob does sports. He's at the American Century Tahoe tournament. He might be at the Pebble Celebrity Pro-Am. So you're seeing all of Josh's golf. There's probably a lot more. There's probably a ton of guys that play more golf than Josh Allen does.
Have you ever done something like that? Have you ever been a part of an event where at your prime in the NFL, you were shooting the ball and, the media was just around you so much?
I would say the most embarrassing shot I've hit, I hit the opening tee shot at Jim Kelly's golf tournament up in Buffalo. It was in the spring. We hadn't been playing much golf. The weather was not appropriate up there to play much golf at the time. And we had had a pretty big night before. I didn't warm up or anything, and I had an awful tee shot, and they had put me up to it because they're like, Eric, show off how far you can hit it. And there was a tree about 50 yards on the right that I didn't even take into consideration, and I was going to rip this big draw, and it smacked the tree, came right down, and there was, probably 150 people standing around. So not my best one.
Think if anyone's in a pro-am coming up, whether it's a Memorial this past week or it's going to be the ISCO coming up, that would be the for all intents and purposes, that'd be the most scary I would ever think about being in front of these pros and playing. But you did answer the question I was kind of thinking about, which is what's your most embarrassing moment. So thanks for reading my mind there. I didn't want to go out and ask you that 110%. Want to switch gears now to a little bit of football, and we'll keep it local here. What was your reaction when you saw the Buffalo Bills draft not, one, but two former Cats, and then now you have three on the team? It's looking like it's, the Buffalo Wildcats right now up there.
Well, UK's had a ton of talent in Lexington for a while. This run under Stoops, they've recruited well and they've developed talent, and that hasn't necessarily translated to SEC championships. Some of that I would put on maybe quarterback play, but they've had tons of talent across both the lines at skill positions. They've had a lot of talent. And so Ray Davis last year had a heck of a rookie season for the Bills. James Cook running a majority of the workload, stayed healthy for a majority of the season. The one game he did miss was Monday Night Football against the Jets, and Ray Davis goes for 100 yards in his only start of the season. So his future looks promising. Harrison's a guy that had caught my eye before. It's hard not to notice Walker in the middle. Those single-digit defensive tackles that are 340 pounds, they stand out. So both those guys I had seen in college and watched them play and were impressed with both of them. So I'm excited they're both Buffalo Bills right now. When you look at Harrison, lots of upside. When you consider the speed and athleticism that he brings and can bring to the table, the one knock on him coming out was his, I'll put it in quotes, inability to tackle. Well, he starts last season with a shoulder surgery. I mean, there was no critiquing his tackling ability in 2023. 2024 is where they're getting on him about his tackling ability. He's playing all year, playing through a shoulder surgery. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and saying he's tough enough to as a first round draft pick to go out there and play through an injury. I'm not going to knock him for missing a couple tackles.
Yeah, very understandable and everything. I think he's just such a ball hawk, and that's what I gained from watching him. I thought his interception stats would have been a little bit better this season. But anyways, we're in the present right now, and those guys are with your former team. We have to wonder as questions swirl around. I don't want to buy into this too much, but people are worried that the rivalry, the Governor's Cup, could go away. Do you feel like that's a real chance? And why is this rivalry so important to people like yourself?
It's fun. I mean, that's the game we look forward to every year. And I'll tell you what, I loved it when it was the first game of the year. It gave us motivation through summer workouts. Okay, we have UK coming up, and that was big for us. I mean, I didn't necessarily grow up. I grew up proximity-wise close to the rivalry, but I wasn't in it until I got down here, and you felt it quickly. You walk around town, you walk around Louisville, and it's blue and red, everything. So to me, to be able to play in that for 4 years was fun. It was the most fun game we'd play in each and every year because of the intensity around it, the build up to it. I think it'd be really dumb if we let the game go away. And honestly, I think we should bump it up to being the opening game of the season. I just feel like right now, I understand what ESPN is doing with Rivalry Week, but it gets lost in the shuffle of Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia. Okay, now it's Louisville, Kentucky. You put it at the beginning of the season when there's not as many primetime matchups. Now it becomes a great focal point for the country to watch it.
Yeah, I like that idea. I never even thought about bumping things up or maybe having rivalries for certain schools sporadically around the season. And maybe you would argue, like you kind of just said, if you drop them, and I'm a South Carolina grad, so I love the Palmetto Bowl, perhaps you have them in different parts of the season. I know there's tradition that we've had for a long time, but it would be cool to see how that would shape out. It's an interesting idea. I haven't heard that one before. What's your favorite memory from any of those games?
We beat UK a couple times early on. Elvis Dumerville, my first ever college game I played in, Elvis Dumerville goes for 5 sacks, and it got called back, but he ran the touchdown with the stiff arm. We'll always remember that. We started the next year off with a reverse to Harry Douglas that went for about 50 yards, and I could not believe Bobby called a reverse to start the game. But everyone had been hyping up Michael Bush all offseason, so we faked it to Michael and pitched it to Harry. And Bobby had told us it was going to work, and sure enough, it did. And Michael running wild. This is far from my favorite memory, but one of my lasting memories of that rivalry would be Michael Bush breaking his leg to start the second half against UK. He had 4 touchdowns, I believe, in the first half. Thought he had a real chance of winning the Heisman that season and breaks his leg in the second half. And unfortunately, that hit my brain about as fast as all the good memories do.
Last one here. We're going to end on a note where we look towards the future. What are you seeing from both these teams this offseason? It's hard to tell in spring what a team's going to look like, except for what portal guys they have in, which is why I hold off on any expectation until closer to the fall. But from your perspective, how do you feel like this is shaping out in Louisville and Lexington for these guys?
But I'm with you. It's been harder and harder to even track who's going to be good. Miller Moss, Louisville's quarterback, I wouldn't probably know who he is really if Louisville hadn't played against him in a bowl game prior, and I got to see him in action. And so, to me, this time of year, unless I'm out there at practice for either team, which I've seen Louisville a little bit. I know they're excited. They have those 2 running backs coming back this year that were outstanding last year, but then you flip a number of guys on the offensive line and quarterback and everything else. So we'll see if they can have the same success this following year. And then obviously there's some excitement over there in Lexington as well. So hopefully both teams will have a great season.
Awesome. Eric, I lied. I have one more question, and it's because I would think now you have everyone here in Lexington and across the Commonwealth. They're going to maybe be Buffalo Bills fans and a little eensy bit if they're not playing the Bengals or something of that sort. With 3 guys on the team, there's going to be some investment. And this team is getting closer and closer. You beat my Ravens. I was super upset about that. But, credit to Josh Allen and the boys and everything there. But how close is this franchise up there to being on the cusp of something or being on, literally not even the cusp, being there to getting a Super Bowl ring, also with the thought of you're going to have a new Highmark Stadium in a matter of months and a year almost. It's going to be a big kind of crescendo for this franchise, possibly with a lot of those things happening.
Yeah, it's a special season coming up with the last year in the old stadium, the new stadium's right across the street being built, which leads to a lot of optimism. But they've been on the cusp for a number of years. Unfortunately, they've run into Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs many times in the playoffs, and they're tough right now. They know how to win in the playoffs, and they're getting it done. They have a very experienced head coach. They got some great veterans on both sides of the ball, and then Patrick Mahomes is tough, especially when it comes to the postseason. And so it's about getting over the hump. And it's if they can get pressure on him, affect Patrick Mahomes, which they haven't been able to do. And so how do you try and do that? You go out and draft Harrison in the first round to try and take away one of the receivers. We brought in Joey Bosa this offseason. We brought in Michael Hoyt from the Rams, drafted 3 defensive linemen in the first 4 rounds. So hopefully those guys can all make a difference.
If Max Harrison gets a pick on Patty Mahomes, I don't know what's going to happen to this town. And if it's in a really big game, I think this place might explode. So we'll see if all those predictions happen. Definitely, like you just said, we're going to have to see how that defense pans out with all those draft picks and everything. But, my gosh, Eric Wood, thank you so much for taking the better part of a half an hour to talk to us here. We appreciate you so much. And everybody, thank you for tuning in to this interview. We will see you next time on ABC 36 Sports.